The entry into service in 2009 of the Santiago-Ourense motorway is one of the main objectives of the Galician Territorial Balance Restoration Plan that seeks to improve communication between the Atlantic coast of Galicia and the interior. This stretch of the Santiago-Ourense motorway, Alto de Santo Domingo A52, the fruit of an agreement between the regional government of Galicia and the Ministry of Development, is a singular, complex project costing 180 million euros. The final stage of this stretch, executed by Constructora San Jose, is the toll-free subsection Thea Link A52, which runs through the municipalities of Thea, Maside, Punxín, Amoeiro, Ourense and Toen. Technically, we find ourselves facing the most difficult trajectory of the entire motorway, remarkable as one of the most outstanding works at a national level. Over a length of only 12,500 metres, there are 6 viaducts, 6% of the section, of which 2 are emblematic, due to their length, height or design. The technical complexity of the subsection is due fundamentally to the especially rugged terrain in the second half, where a deep valley of natural beauty is spanned by the Barbantinho Viaduct, without doubt one of the most outstanding works in Spain in view of its technical complexity. The viaducts over the rivers Barbantinho and Minho are worthy of special mention as emblems of the project. The completion of these singular works has required the continuous participation and advice of specialized technicians, and the most advanced construction systems currently available have been employed in their construction. The viaduct over the river Barbantinho is especially long and high, given the natural terrain. Maintaining the abutments within reasonable dimensions, the structure is 780 metres long, the largest stretch being 120 metres over 8 central spans. The distance between ground level and its highest point reaches 80 metres. The horizontal alignment has a variable curvature, which made the alternative of execution by box girder launching unviable. Given its situation, the most adequate solution was a pre-stressed concrete box girder laid over successive cantilevers. The construction process was performed in a series of phases. In the first place, the foundations, piles and abutments were executed. The central piles are formed by a lower layer of variable height with a single stem and an upper layer 45 metres in height, composed of 2 independent sheet piles in the form of a fork. The stability of these piles was assured through provisional buttress braces embedded in the upper double stems. Then work began on the bridge deck, built employing a caisson section with a variable edge, parabolic in shape, which reaches its maximum limit on the piles and its minimum in the centre of the spans. The assembled section 0 was laid on the piles and, once completed, the pair of launching wagons were placed on it. Once the wagons were in place, the successive sections were launched as the wagons advanced at the rate of 1 section per week. Each span is formed by 12 sections plus the packing. When this point had been reached and the total length of the bridge deck executed, what remained to be done was the final phase of concreting the spans and laying the prefabricated struts, work performed by a travelling formwork unit. The viaduct over the river Minho is 440 metres long, with 8 spans, and is the motorway's crossing over this major river on the outskirts of the city of Ourense. The necessity imposed in the bid specifications for the project that there be no more than 2 supports in the riverbed meant that a distance of 210 metres had to be crossed, employing a maximum of 3 spans. For this reason, it was decided to place 2 special Y-shaped piles in the riverbed that, together with 2 provisional piles on either side of the same, permitted the construction of the bridge deck using self-supporting formwork. In addition, the Y-shaped piles are singular elements that distinguish the bridge, boosting its aesthetic and landscaping values. The construction phases were, in the first place, the execution of temporary peninsulas in the bed of the River Minho that were necessary as a working platform and in order to construct the foundations of the central piles. Afterwards, the foundations were executed, followed by the piles and the abutments. Amongst the piles, the provisional lattice-work ones also had to be driven on either side of the Y-shaped ones, as additional support for the self-supporting formwork. Piles 4 and 5 are Y-shaped. Both the arms and the stem are of the same width, with variable edges. The ends of the 2 upper ends of the Y have braced with a concrete strut prefabricated on site. The remaining piles are box girder sections, reaching a maximum height of 30 metres. Afterwards, the construction of the 10 faces of the bridge deck began using the self-supporting formwork. The box girder sections have a constant edge of 2.5 metres. Finally, the bridge deck was expanded to its total width in the final phase of concreting the spans and laying the prefabricated struts, work performed by a travelling formwork unit. Once the works had been completed, it was necessary to restore the affected area, removing the peninsulas and the provisional piling and adapting the riverbanks. One obstacle that had to be taken into account for construction purposes was the presence of a railway line parallel to the river on the right bank, which meant that it was necessary to use a pontoon in order to execute the works from the opposite bank. One special characteristic worth mentioning is that due to complicated terrain in the second half of the stretch and the proximity of the Santiago-Ourense railway line, it was necessary to take special precautions when cutting into rock slopes, using controlled explosions and then reinforcing the nearest slopes in order to avoid any later landslide. The completion of the stretch executed for the regional government of Galicia, which harmoniously combines elegance and technology with a deep respect for the environment, once again places Constructora San Jose amongst the leading first-rate construction companies in the area of infrastructures.